Hello, welcome to our next episode, episode 2 of Insight ISAPN. I am President April Odom, nurse practitioner, and I'm here today with our student rep, Evan Alling, who is going to talk today about students, for the students, because as he prepares to graduate, and a lot of students are since it's that time of the year, what do you do when you graduate? Like, what comes next? And so we're going to just talk to Evan and we're going to talk about things that students can do to prepare for their transition to graduation into an APRN practice. All right. Thank you for being here today, Evan. So
Thank you
I
for
do
having
want
me.
to thank you. I do want to start with just kind of like your journey through nursing. Like, where did you start as a RN, and kind of like how did you get where you are today?
Yeah, for sure. So my background is a little bit different than probably most students, or maybe it's the same. Who knows? My background was I used to work at a Harley Davidson dealership, and one of my customers was the manager of an emergency department in Joliet Silver Cross Hospital. Back before the new beautiful hospital was built, we used to be a small little hospital on the east side of Joliet. So that woman was my boss, or ended up being my first boss in healthcare. So my first job in healthcare was working in an emergency room as a transporter. I was seeking a little bit more responsibility, so people were just kind of passively training me how to be a tech. And then since I wanted to make it official, I went to EMT school, became an ER tech. So I did ER tech for about 4 or 5 years, and then transitioned from that role to become a paramedic. And I continued to work as an ER tech. And my goal was to be a flight medic. And to do that, you kind of have to get experience in 911. So I became a firefighter and paramedic. First job was contracted, but always continued to work in an ER. So I was an ER tech and paramedic firefighter, did that for a while. A lot of people don't know this, but in the state of Illinois, if you want to be a full-time firefighter, you kind of have to have a job with the municipality by age 35, which was modified during COVID to be up to age 40. But I never really had the opportunity to become a paramedic firefighter, spent too much time messing around, having a good time in the ER. So I thought, I love healthcare. I like being taking care of people. So the next step is to become a nurse, and became a nurse. Love it. It's great. So from being a nurse, then I transitioned and said, um, my wife and I just had a frank conversation. She wants to be a little bit more at home, and I love what I do. So figured the next step was that made sense was to become a nurse practitioner, and it's been a great ride. Um, and I look forward to any roles I'm able to help people out with. I still get to help people. I still get to be with patients, and yeah, excited for the next step. It's been a long
Wonderful.
journey. Start my first job as an ER transporter was 2008. So
Wow.
yeah, almost 20 years of healthcare experience before I
So is it
started nurse
critical care
practitioner.
in your blood? Is it critical
Uh,
care ER?
ICU is definitely not for me. Too many things to focus on. I'm more of an ER guy where I like to be kind of scattered and moving quickly and changing directions. And um, but my wife is a NICU nurse, but there are very significant differences in our personalities of the way we like things organized and put away. Um, she's more of what we would call type A, and my background is whatever the opposite of type A is, which is just kind of figuring out as you go.
Well,
So
that's
that's where we
great.
are. 20 years of healthcare experience and just now getting everything together.
That's okay. I always say, you're right where you're supposed to be. There's
Right.
no rush. It's not a race. It's just this is your time now to do this, and this is where you are. And so
And
you
in all
are
honesty, like no one twisted my arm to do this. Like
right.
I like doing this. And I feel that one of the major things about being a nurse practitioner is that like we still get to be with our patients. Like, and most of us got in this to be with patients, and we still are engaging patients directly. And that's where I want to be.
That's great. Yes. So yeah, so that's great. And so you are about to graduate, right?
Yep. So I present my research in less than 24 hours, and then graduation's next week. So
Wonderful.
as long as my research project doesn't get too much objections, I should be good to graduate next week.
Well, congratulations. We
Thank you.
definitely am so happy for you here and can't wait to see what you bring to the state of Illinois for sure and beyond, of course. So what made you join ISAPN? Have you been a member since a student?
I'd have to look back, but I think it was about midway through my program, I became a member. The big reason was two of our like uh, FNP faculty, everyone's important, but like the more important faculty that we have, like one's our I never understand these titles, but she's like the director of our program, and then another one's like director of our clinicals. They're both ISAPN members, always had like we're passing along educational opportunities for us, always kind of pushing us just a little bit to, check it out, see what we thought. And I think the impetus for joining was I feel like it was like the Midwest Conference just sounded so enticing. It was in my backyard, and I was like, I'm going to go check this out. And then, of course, there's a student discount that comes with it. But there's so many, like, I wouldn't have been opposed to reaching out for the educational dinners and stuff like that. It just seemed like a good opportunity to start networking. And I mean, people may or may not be aware, but the best way to start looking for job opportunity is just networking, just talking to people about what they do and saying to yourself, oh, that sounds interesting. And then being able to bounce like, hey, like, what would I do to position myself best for a position like that? Like, so that, of course, like we got a network, and we got important government and legislative work to do. So like the being a part of that is just something that spoke to me. So then I enrolled and became a student member.
Wonderful. Yeah, I remember when I joined, I was a student as well. And my faculty had showed us a video, and I was like, oh, wow, I should be there. And I started going to dinners, networking dinners all by myself. I was like, I'm going to go in here and see, and then just meeting people in different areas and different specialties and, just being able to have that exposure and connect it to people who were already APRNs was really, really beneficial. And as you said, the student membership is a discounted rate. Students get to hold that membership for 2 years. They are still a member. They get to vote. They can be on committees. Um, and so there's other things to be involved because, as you said, the legislative work is important, and we need everybody. It's like all hands on deck. Like we need everybody to be involved. And the
Yeah,
more
for
people that are
sure.
involved is really helps us as an organization to get the work done in the state.
Yep. And just so we can at least put it out there, um I was just being involved as a student when people were asking if I'd be interested to be part of the board, which of course is a no-brainer. Yes, of course I want to be part of the board, but it wasn't like I was requesting this position. I just came in, was networking, working my tail off at the Midwest Conference, and the next thing I knew, I was like, come to the table. And it wasn't like I was opposed because I immediately said yes. But like this is just starting to like network with the board members more has been an incredible experience. And I've only been together for or officially together for about 4 months now. So
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah, I remember a conference. So we do that at Midwest Conference. We'll offer students opportunity to come to conference without a charge by being volunteers. And so you get to be in conference, hear the information, and then, introduce speakers. And again, that networking piece, you get to meet everybody already. And sometimes that's a good thing if you're, finishing up or you're still looking for preceptors, or even if you haven't decided what you want to do, what area you want to go in, you just get to see so many topics and so many specialties and APRNs from different specialties that is great. I definitely what
Yeah.
I
And
like a lot is that we have all four specialties. It's not just certified nurse practitioners. We have midwives there and topics for midwifery and topics for CNSs and CRNAs. It's just a variety of individuals you can meet.
yeah, and my background being ER and pre-hospital, there's like the midwife stuff doesn't really appeal to me too much, but like neither does critical care, but there were great critical care topics. And when I read the agenda, it was like a no-brainer. And then having the opportunity to volunteer as a student was just like, yes, I'm going to go talk. I'm going to go meet people. I'm going to go walk around. and then I'm going to get to hear lectures, and it was a great experience. It really was.
Yeah. Okay, so reflecting back through your school journey so far, now that you're finishing up, what has been the most meaningful part of your APRN program?
I think finishing. And I don't mean that to just be crass and a simple answer. What I mean is that this the APRN program was not easy for me. So um, just divulging a little bit of information about myself, I'm going to be turning 40 this year. I didn't have my first kid until I was 35. So when we found out we were pregnant with our first one, kind of took a backseat. I had just finished my bachelor's, kind of hung out for a little bit, took it down, and then kind of started having those discussions about like going back to school. And God bless my wife, because this would not have happened without her. But like getting to this finish line is, I started full time, took a semester off, moved down to part time, continued to do part-time and full-time work, and then eventually had to decrease to part-time work and full-time school. So getting to this finish line has been a never-ending scheduling nightmare for my wife, primarily because she's in charge of everything in my life. So getting to this finish line is just going to be a burden that is, and I shouldn't say burden, but it's the best word I can use to describe it, of, juggling between grandma and who's taking care of the kids, and getting to clinical, and like doing that extra work, and now studying for boards. But like, I'm just so excited to have this next week upon me.
Yes, yes. And so sometimes I tell people, like, even though you're doing all the work and in the program, your wife is getting that degree with you. She's put in the blood, sweat, and
Oh
tears
yeah.
as well. Like, you guys have
Yeah.
made it through as a
Yeah.
team.
100%.
Yes, and that's
100%.
great.
This would never have been done without her.
Hmm.
And I shout out grandma too, because without those two, like, we would never be here today.
And so you are that village. You have that village of support behind you,
Yes,
and that's
ma'am.
amazing for sure. Um, and even though I tell people sometimes, like, your wife is a nurse, so that helps. But sometimes I tell people nurses don't understand the struggle of nursing students unless you're there. Like, you have other family members who will support you and everything, but they don't understand. And that's why having that community of people who are, APRN students or APRNs who've already been through that, is a different type of understanding, a different type of support that they can give you. Um, and so now that we're gonna transition, I know we're quite not there yet, and you probably aren't even thinking about provider.
Right.
Like, it's kind of like finish, and then maybe I'll look for a job, take my boards, look for a job, because that's gonna be the next step. You have to take your boards, right? And
Right.
then you look for a job. Are you looking for a job simultaneously, or you're kind of like,
Yeah, no, I'm already applying for jobs. From again, I would never have had this perspective without the ISAPN. Is that, let's say unlicensed, I get hired today, and I have everything squared away. The amount of time it takes until you can start billing to see patients is not like, it's not like a nurse role where you just come in and you're good to go. It's like, no, no, like, yeah, you're hired, and yeah, you can start training, but you cannot bill for patients for like another 4 or 5 months.
mhm,
So like, kind of getting those resumes out there now has been my tactic. Now, my board exam is only 3 weeks away. Like, I wanted to take it during spring break, but I was not able to do that because I was not done with my entirety of my clinical hours.
okay,
Um, so I was trying to test early, but now I got my board exam in 3 weeks, and then the new baby comes 2 weeks after that. And hopefully, like, if my current employer doesn't hire me, hopefully someone else does. But I'm looking towards the future, and yeah, like, I'm applying for jobs right now. Um, and that's like another wonderful perspective of this association, is like, there's mentors out there. If I have questions about what I need to do, I just reach out to them and say, like, how could I best position myself for this job?
mhm,
And just having those people I can reach out to has been great. So to
yeah.
answer your question, yes, simultaneous job applications, board prep, and research presentation.
Perfect. I know you sound like me. I was like, as soon as I got my authorization to test, I was testing. Like I didn't want to wait. It's like kind of like let me get it over with. And I graduated in December of 2016, so I already had a job offer in January before I took boards. So it was kind of like I had to pass my boards in order to be starting in June, and my job didn't
Yep.
start till June. So, like you said, even though I was able to get the process going, I had to get credentialed, and everything had to be in place so that way by June, I was able to see patients because it took all those months in order to do the credentialing and do all the, information you need for TAQH and get your NPI, like all these things that you have to do, your license time, waiting for your license to come. So all the things you have to do, it does take time. So definitely recommend people look for positions now, with that last couple months of their program so they can get their resumes out there, start interviewing just to get used to interviewing. And then mentor, definitely having a mentor. We have a mentor program that actually will be starting this month. And when I first graduated, well, I was like probably a little bit into my position, but when they first launched the mentor program, I was a mentee in the first year because I was new and I was like, oh my God, I need this. I need somebody to help me. And so for that mentor program, you get a one-on-one. So you get assigned to a mentor and the mentor gets assigned to a mentee. And for 10 months, you have this person to navigate your journey, your transition with basically. So any questions you have, you meet monthly, and we have like talking points available that you can talk about, but it's not tie like it's not the only thing you can do, because sometimes I remember I would have an issue, oh I have this question, or I had this case, or I have this situation, what do I do? And just knowing you have somebody to call is very
Right.
beneficial. And so definitely recommend a mentor program. And so that's one of the benefits that ISAPN offers every year to our students and for our mentors who are giving back. It's another way for us as experienced APRNs to continue to help the next generation as well.
Yeah, for sure. And then to go along with that, also shout out ISAPN. If you are having struggles with getting your license, ISAPN has a form for that.
Yep.
So if you're one of those students who's like just eager to get that license in your hand and start working after your board exam, it would behoove you to be a member of the ISAPN prior to your board exam so you can kind of take in that part of the membership and enjoy it. To help you kind of move those wheels down in Springfield, because from what I understand, they do not move quickly.
They don't. And so that's definitely one of the perks of being a member we created last year, maybe. Yeah, it was last year that, people were waiting so long for their licenses. It's like, okay, how can we help our members? And so that's one of the benefits. And the link is right on the website. So you just fill out the form and then, we reach out to them on the back end and, hopefully get your license to you much quicker than if you had no help at all.
Yeah, especially for those people that are up in that northwest and like northeast part of Illinois, like a 4 hour drive down to Springfield is, I mean, you're going to drive 4 hours, you're going to sit down there all day and have to drive 4 hours back
Mhm.
when all you got to do is be a member and you can just
Exactly.
click right on through.
Save that
So,
gas and that time.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So tell me, Evan, so how has your experience been so far being on the board? So these last few months as a student, so you're still learning, you're finishing up your program, but now we brought you into the fold as a board member. What has your experience been?
Yeah, so I've been lucky enough to be part of, well, two official board meetings, and like that, I mean, you could count the Midwest Conference, or I'm sorry, the Farm Update and the Day at the Capitol is like another meeting. But it's been great. Everyone's so nice and open, and it's not one of those like you might be used to from nursing, like eat your young type of situations. It's like everybody wants to know about you, who you are, what you do, what you want to do, who your kids are, what your favorite food is. What do you think about the coffee from this place? Everybody's super nice and open and very chill and laid back. Um, so both my board meeting experiences were phenomenal. The donuts at the last board meeting were on point. Happy birthday, Chris! Shout out. Yeah, everything. I feel like there's a lot of, how do I say this diplomatically? There's a lot of opportunity that will be forthcoming as more things move through the board. Especially for students in the next year. I think it's going to be really cool to be a member,
It
is what
is.
I'll
It
say,
is.
because it's not official yet, but
Yeah.
there's some very cool updates coming for students that
So that's
I
just
wish I
exciting,
could
right?
have been a part of.
Tell everybody we know something special is coming, so you better join us now.
Exactly. Exactly. But even if you join right before the farm update, that would still be cool, as long
Yeah.
as you attend.
Yes. But yeah, so again, so as you're finishing your program, you've already been involved in the board. We know you're already looking for positions, so you're being proactive with that. So when students graduate and they're just trying to think, okay, what's my next step? Of course, we know everybody, the hope is to take boards, right? And
Right.
determining if they want to take ANCC versus AANP, right? Or the specialty area. Um, that's the thing. Do you have a preference or have you chosen which exam you're taking? Where yes, you have your test letter, right?
Yeah. So I have my authorization to test and I'm already scheduled. So right now I'm taking ANCC. It's all going to be FNP regardless. Um, I I might have made a mistake and registered for both. So I might end up taking both exams. If I'm able to do them both on the same day, is what I told myself. So if I'm able to do both exams on the same day, even if I pass the first one, even when I pass the first one, um, I would probably take both of them, but I am registered for both. Um, and yeah, I take it in 3 weeks.
Yeah. I know sometimes we used to have a conversation about that, like which one matters. F and P is F and P at the end of the day. And
Right.
when I registered, I came when I was an RN, I worked at a magnet designated hospital. So we only talked ANCC. So there was never a question
Yeah.
about taking anything other than ANCC for me. And some people they're like, oh well, AANP is because of this. And so it doesn't matter what you take, just take one. And I know people have done both and they have the
Yeah.
double. So whatever works as a student, I think it's just at the end of the day, I got to pass something. I got to finish something. So
Right.
I'm walking away with one of these certifications, if not both.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, this is just for students to be aware of, like, and this is the way I almost ended up going into flight medicine. This is the way I've done everything. Looking for a job posting that you would like to have. Don't apply to it, but open it up and see what they're expecting you to have as an applicant. And this is the reason I'm considering doing both, is because there are jobs out there that only recognize one specific thing. And that's not uncommon, because there's some places that only recognize certain designations for the school. Um, AANC, or not AANC, um, whoever certifies the schools, but there are people that want you to have certain certifications for your schools. And those are things you can wiggle with during an interview. But like, that was just kind of what I was thinking, is that some jobs want you to specifically have one designation. So if I got to take both, I got to take both, just to be completely prepared.
Prepared. Yeah, that's definitely being prepared. Either one way or the other, right?
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
So 3 weeks. So you'll take your test, you'll pass your certification, probably both of them, I'm sure. And then licensing time will be next. So getting your license, and then hopefully landing a position sooner rather than later. So you can do all the credentialing and all of that good stuff, getting your NPI and making sure your CAQH profiles up to date. And sometimes I tell students that even though your employer may do all of that for you, know how to access that. So know how to access your MPI system, know how to access your CAQH, because you may have to go in there at some point and don't just leave it up to them. Or if you leave that facility, you want to make sure you have access to that too. So that's the other thing too. As
Yeah, and
far
our program was very proactive about assuring we had our NPI squared away,
as
within the last year, for sure. Um, I didn't completely read the instructions appropriately. So if you're doing your NPI application after watching this video, just be aware you do not want to put it as your home address. You do not want to put it on your home phone number, because you will start getting opportunities for malpractice insurance, and are you billing appropriately? And like, it was like immediately after finishing that NPI. So make sure you know where to put your address as appropriate. And just remember, you can apply for an NPI at any time. As long as you're a nurse, you can apply for an NPI. So do that earlier because it was relatively quick, but now I have an NPI and I just need to update it.
Right. When you finish your course, you update it to now APRN, right? So,
Right.
all right. So now that you're finishing, and I know we've already talked a couple times about you definitely are going to stay connected, but as talking to another student, why would you tell them it's important to stay connected to professional organizations after, even after graduation?
Well, I mean, I'm not like a legislative guy. It's like not my favorite thing in the world to do, but like we got to be real here. Like if we want to advance our profession, we have to be part of legislation. And one of the biggest things that our professional organizations do for us is work on our behalf to make us better and make us where we need to be. And I mean, I think, even more than mentoring, that's probably one of the more important things that professional societies do for us. And this is applicable to, not only us, but like AANP and like all of those. So being a part of those, even if you're not, coming to every meeting or, donating thousands of dollars to the PAC or anything, it's just important to be a member for those reasons alone. And then also having that insight of what and how we're thinking about legislation. Like, you know, right now we have the nurse midwife Senate bill that's being or worked through the House. Now it's in the Senate. Um, like just having insight into the fact of how little maternal care there is in Illinois. Because I'm from the Chicagoland area, like I'm from the suburbs, I'm from Joliet, and there's like no such thing as a maternity care desert out there because we have hospitals like everywhere. Um, but realistically, I could drive 30 minutes west of Joliet and be in a maternity care desert. Like, and that is just completely multiplied by everything as soon as you get 20 minutes south of Joliet.
Mm-hmm.
Because then between Joliet and call it Bloomington, there's not much of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you get south of Bloomington, it gets even worse. And it's just like, having that insight into like where we need to be proactive. Like I would have never known that if I wasn't part of a professional organization. Now, obviously the word would have eventually made its way to everyone who's paying attention, but we're so sheltered in our little Chicago collar counties that we don't realize that like it's
What's
not
going
far
on
from
in the
home.
entire state, right? What's
It's
going on
it's
in the
not far
entire
from
state?
home. So, I mean, that's obviously important, and then like mentoring obviously is huge, um, and just education. Like you got to do your CE somehow. Might as well have fun while you're doing it.
Right. Meet some people, connect
Hey,
to people in your state and your organization.
yep, and
Um,
usually the food selection's pretty good.
yeah. So good thing you said that about like just being, involved because one reason, because of the legislative work, because people don't realize like a lot of the barriers that we had in our practice before that have been removed was because of people fighting for us. So, I always tell people like before I would have never known anything about, why I didn't or how I couldn't sign a parking placard. But because of the people before me who did the work for me, now I have the benefit of being able to do that for my patients and not having to refer them to someplace else. So those things, so there's always things going on in the background to help us advance our practice. And it benefits all APRNs, which, so again, those who are not involved, they may not even never know or realize it. But the more of us that are involved, the greater power I say we have, because now we can
Absolutely,
really advance things a little bit quicker if we had more numbers, more members, more people talking to their legislators and being involved. And so I sometimes try to tell people that's why we need you, because we need your voice. We need you to know. And plus, it's your professional duty to know what's going on in your state. So, like knowing that there are maternity care desks in your state, because you could be traveling, somewhere else outside of where you normally live, or you may have people traveling to you and you're wondering why they haven't gotten this care. It's because there's none. So
right?
just being open and realizing that, and so it's always important to be involved in your state organization, and of course your national too, but you definitely want to be involved in your state organization.
Absolutely, yeah, because your state's going to be the one that actually directly affects your professional
Mhm.
license. Like,
Yes.
yeah, and I mean, like everybody knows there's a big push for the compact, but like that's not going to get done if everybody just kind of hopes for it. Like
Right.
it's got to be a push. It's got to be a unified voice. It's got to be, otherwise it will not happen.
Hmm.
It won't. So we got to get everybody together and try and hopefully push for it.
Yes. And then there's always, there's other organizations and individuals who are fighting against some of the things we want. And
Absolutely.
so, we need more numbers to show that we're stronger together so that we can continue to advance these things. And if it's a small group of us, our voice isn't as loud. So
Right.
we need more.
Yes, for sure.
All right. So I guess we'll say now, what is one piece of advice you'd give students who are entering their last semester or term as you are about to graduate?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, start thinking about where you want to be when you finish school. Like I know you should be focusing on studying and clinicals and learning, but like kind of visualize where you'd like to be one day and start looking at those opportunities now and just kind of, what don't when you meet with recruiters or you meet with somebody at a conference, don't ask them for a job. Ask them how to best position yourself for a job in the future. Like, what could I do to make myself more appealing? That would be number one. But number two, I don't know how other schools work, but the way our school worked is that your clinical semesters are your last basically 2 years of your program. Start planning for those days like as early as possible. Like, I mean, the scheduling headaches for us were so difficult when it came to clinical rotations, and um, SIUE does a good job of splitting up the clinical rotations, but our first semester was 90, second semester was 90. So it was like, oh, okay, we kind of get the hang of this. 90 hours over 16 weeks. It's like one clinical rotation a week if you're doing 10 or 12-hour shifts. Well, then you get to the summer semester and it's shortened. So you have 10 weeks to get 90 hours. And it's like, okay, well, now we're hustling. The second to last semester is 180 hours, 16 weeks. And it's like, okay, okay, okay. And then the last semester is 270 hours and 16 weeks. And it's like, oh my God, this is all out sprint. So if you're not thinking about those clinical rotations yet, and you're just in your first year where you're not really doing clinical rotations, just a lot of academics, start thinking about it now, because like had I had enough of a nest egg built up to be registry and work like one day a week and do more clinicals, that would have been way better. But that was not our financial situation. So I think we would have benefited from thinking about those clinical hours early, early, early. And also shout out, like right now I'm doing board prep. I made my own study guide. Shout out Chat GPT. I asked for like what they would recommend to focus on. Like my prompt was for people who are unsuccessful in the ANCC exam, what topics do they wish they had reviewed in the past? And it spit out a ton of stuff I was not thinking about, specifically like professional role stuff. And that's like professional role and billing and stuff like that. So like that's where my focus is right now.
That's great. So, and shameless plug, we're gonna have an AI workshop at Midwest Conference. So,
Shout out.
yes, you guys better get there to learn how to use those prompts because it does help for sure. Um,
Yeah, and it's just all based on like what the prompt is that you put in. So
mhm.
another one I had maybe about 2 months ago, I had put in a prompt for I don't know if you've ever heard of 80/20 analysis. Have you ever heard of this?
I
The
think so.
20% of the inputs control 80% of the outputs.
Hmm.
So like what is the 80/20 analysis of the ANCC exam? And it gave me a great, like, it's a, like, let's be real. If you just did a little bit of research on the ANCC website, you could probably figure it out. But having like a well formatted study guide that says like, hey, here's where you need to focus your time. And then you can take that and say, okay, I got 3 weeks to study. What should my study time look like? And it
Hmm.
spits out the other stuff. So I know academics and you're not supposed to be using AI, but it's here to stay.
It's this
It's
feature.
definitely not going anywhere.
Hmm.
And learning how we can work together with it to make us better students and better spend our time on studying, um, it's been a godsend for me.
Yes.
And people will also be like, well, back in my day, and it's like, well, it's not back in your day. Like,
Right. It's a new
like
world.
so, like you just being mad at it or talking about how it's going to take over is not going to stop anything. So we need to learn to embrace it and use it to our best of our abilities
Yes.
for sure.
I'm like a little jealous. I'm like, man, I used to really write all my papers from scratch and like literally I'll put in like all of my thoughts and within seconds, so it's not like I'm making up. It's what I want to say. It's just going to be said in a way that I don't have to spend an hour writing something and it comes out within seconds. So I definitely am like, yes.
And to clarify, I did not use AI for my doctorate program.
Right. No.
Um, I will say that we were allowed to use Grammarly. And so I did use Grammarly to clear up my papers, make them look a little bit better, because I do have a tendency to ramble on. So having Grammarly to fix it up, but like our school actually plugs Grammarly. So like Grammarly is partially AI, but I'm
Mhm.
not going to get into that debate. But yeah, I mean, just the only guidance I would have is, like I said, start thinking about work earlier than you need to, start planning for clinical rotations earlier than you need to, and start coming to conferences and talking to people who are in positions that you one day would like to be in.
Mhm. I have an actual follow-up question to that. So is there anything that you're worried about in your transition? So like now again, you're going from RN, so expert RN to novice APRN. And so sometimes that's a really tough transition because now you're making decisions, your diagnosis, like more is on your plate. Do you have any, concerns or ways that you can try to like navigate through that?
Yeah, like for sure. Like I've always had imposter syndrome, like no matter how hard I work at it. Um, I worked very, like when I was a paramedic, I became a paramedic and started working as a medic. Um, and I wanted to be better. So I became a national certified paramedic. And back when I did that, that was like, it's not unheard of, but it's like you really had to work hard and you intended to be a nationally registered paramedic. Because now it's just like in the state, you can just take the national registry exam and be a paramedic in the state. That's not how it was before. Illinois and national were separate entities. So I worked hard to do that. And then I wanted to see myself in flight. So I became a critical care and flight medic, both separate board exams, both very challenging, did both of those. Um, and even like as a medic, I never felt like super confident, but like it's just kind of the way I am, I guess. And now I'm seeing that same thing like as a nurse, and I'm starting to see this like come up as an APRN is like, um, I worked in urgent care for one of my last rotations, and my preceptor, I was telling him about a fellowship that I was applying to. He's like, "You don't need it." I'm like, "No, no, no, I really do. Like, I'm not ready." He's like, "No, you don't understand. You're ready. Like, you're fine. Just get a job, would you?" So, I mean, shout out to these programs in Illinois. There's two of them. I'm not going to name them because I don't know what the agreements are with any of these facilities. But there's two facilities in Illinois doing large APRN and APP um, fellowship programs where you can kind of gently ease into that practice. And I mean, the two I was looking at, one had urgent care and ER, and then the other one just had ER. And these are great opportunities. I wasn't lucky enough to get one of the positions, and I'm not salty about it. But I think these opportunities do exist. But at the same time, like, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit nervous about transitioning. And I think that's normal. And I think if I was to have an attitude or a mindset where it's like, no, everything's going to be great, I'm going to be perfect, I'm going to do great the first time, I think I'd actually need more discussion than like being nervous about the transition.
Yeah.
I think it's normal to like, I mean, I'd really like to interview resident physicians, like, and see how they're feeling about those first days, like quote unquote, on their own. Because at the end of their program, they've had, most docs have had 4 years of residency.
Mhm.
And I'll bet you they're kind of feeling the same way most of us feel when we're starting to transition. Like, yeah, it's different.
Yeah. I
It's
think
just
probably with anything you're starting new, it's like, oh man, like, do I
right,
really know this? Do I really, you have those questions. And as you said, having that little bit of nervousness is normal because we don't want to
right,
be too cocky. And then that's usually how mistakes happen because you're just like, oh, I
right,
know it all. Because you don't know it
right.
all. So you definitely want to use resources and use colleagues and things like that. So to have that little bit of nervousness is normal for sure. Um, but the
Yeah,
transition
one
is
of
just
the
something
one of
that
the girls I work with had just told me we were talking about being anxious, and she's like, listen, if you're not anxious, you're dead. Like, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's one way to think about it. Like, if you're not just a little bit anxious, you must like, and it doesn't like, it's a huge transition from nursing to APRN. So, like, again, I think we're on the right track here. Is that like, if you're not nervous, you should
Yeah.
be. Like, yeah, I don't,
Just a
I
little
don't,
bit. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Cautious. You should be cautious for
cautious.
sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And thorough.
yes,
Precision, you should be precise and accurate. So that's a word we had a meeting a few weeks ago, and that was the terms like precision and accuracy is what we're trying to drive across. So you want to be precise, you want to be accurate. You don't want to have errors and delays in care and delayed diagnoses, but you want to be safe for sure. And not too sure of yourself, and just making sure that we're doing the right thing for the right patient. And that takes time. You're not going to
yep,
have it the first month, the week, maybe not even the first year. It does take time. It does get easier as you go along, but it's a transition for sure.
for sure.
So thank you so much, Evan, for this amazing conversation with you. I definitely want to recommend that if you are a student in Illinois and you are finishing up, take Evan's advice and keep studying and applying, and just seeing what's out there and being involved, of course, with ISAPN, your state organization here in Illinois. And if you're not in Illinois, whatever state you're in, get involved in your state organization, because we need you. And as you're transitioning from student to APRN, we definitely need your voice and your expertise. And Evan, I know you and I talked briefly about, what's next for you. So once you graduate, get your position, how you're going to continue to stay involved with the organization, as we have board positions opening up now. So you're on the board already, but the student position, you'll be leaving soon. And so just figuring out what's the next step for being on the board. So of course, we want you to stay involved, stay active, and bring some friends along with you. And if you have any last minute words for anyone who's not a member of ISAPN, what would you say?
I'd say the value has already been recouped. Like when we're talking, I know it like we paid out of pocket for nursing school, so it's been very tight financially. I'd say the value you get from being a student member is you're going to far exceed it, even just in like a single event registration. You get your money back with like that's a no brainer. But like being able to plug in, like one thing we didn't talk about was our preceptor like availability. Like we have a huge directory of people who are willing to be preceptors. And I know that's been a huge contentious topic when it comes to APRN programs, especially with school. Um, but if you're in a program that can't help you secure clinical sites, guess who can? It's the ISAPN. So like we get those emails every week of people who are seeking preceptors near you. And if you're able to help out, like, or if you need it, like just get in that portal and get on it. Like
Mm-hmm.
that what you'll recoup is far gonna exceed what you're gonna spend on it.
And also, we have a section on our site for APRN students where you can request graduation cords, and information about the mentor program. So that's all there too. Again, we really want to focus more on things that we think students may need as they transition, and be that resource for them, because the students now are our future. Like, I always say, even when I was in arts, nurse, I used to say, these people are going to be taking care of us. These people who are in nursing school are going to be taking care of me one day. And so it's always best to pay it forward and continue to give back, and again, stay involved and network for sure. Get a mentor, get a couple mentors if you need to, and then be a mentor when it's your time to be a mentor for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a conference guy. I love to go to conferences just because of like time commitments. Like, yeah, I can spend an entire day at a conference, but I'll also recoup my CE and I'll learn a lot and I'll get a lot of like high concentration information. But I've been to enough conferences to know that like different, how do I say this? Different groups of people behave differently and treat people differently based on like what their expectation of what you can give them is. I will say that I've been to what two conferences now with ISAPN, and everybody just wants to like they want to know who you are and like what are you doing, what do you want to do in the future, and like what do you like to eat, and let me tell you about this place. And it's just like it's more like family oriented, and I've never left
Community. Yes.
disappointed like I've never left feeling like, man, I just did not want to talk to some of those people anymore. Like usually it's like, this was refreshing. It was like a good holiday dinner without politics. Like that's what it was like. It's like you just leave feeling good. Like it's everything's just right. Like
That's great.
so you'll get your time and money worth if you're able to join as a
Yes, just
student.
come see us. We're a lot of fun, I promise.
Yeah, we're gonna do some bingo. Let's do it.
Yes, yes. So we will see you guys at our next event. So there's region dinners going on throughout the summer still. And then in October, we're going to have Midwest Conference in Rockford. Can think of the name in Rockford. And so we're going to have our PAC event. We're going to have conference. It's going to be 2 days. So it's a lot of great stuff coming up for the state of Illinois APRNs and students. And so we want to see you students out. So when you see Evan and I out in the ISAPN streets, make sure you say hello.
Out in the streets. Love it. Yeah,
All
but
right. Well,
definitely come say hi.
yes. Thank you so much, Evan. It was great talking to you, and we will see you all around.
Thank you.